Formula One history is absolutely packed with teams rising, falling, changing their bloody names, and occasionally pulling off the impossible, actually winning the championship. Today, we're looking at the origin stories of the most famous F1 teams. Like Alpine F1 used to be called Renault, which was once Benetton, but was originally Toleman, a team which competed against Renault in the 1980s. Confused? You should be. So let's start with Red Bull Racing burst onto the scene in 2005 as the party crasher of F1, born from the ashes of a failing Jaguar. Jaguar was originally called Stewart Grand Prix, by the way, founded by triple world champion Jackie Stewart with Ford's backing. By 1999, in only their third season, Stewart GP achieved a fairy tale win. Johnny Herbert won the European GP, and Barrichello scored pole in France. Stewart GP finished fourth in the Constructors that year, and of course, such success made the team an attractive target. Ford, who had been the engine partner, decided to buy Stewart GP outright at the end of '99. The team was rebranded as Jaguar Racing for 2000. But, as often happens, corporate meddling and management turnover hurt progress. Jaguar's early seasons saw constant leadership changes and total chaos, like they embedded a $300,000 diamond on the nose of each car as part of a movie promotion. Cool idea, well, one of the cars crashed, and the diamond disappeared, never to be found. By late 2004, Ford had enough of F1's expenses and put the team up for sale. Energy drink billionaire Dietrich Matesch had dabbled as a sponsor with Sauber, but when Jaguar came up for sale, he bought the whole thing. Reportedly, for just $1 and a heap of future investment. People joked that an energy drink company couldn't take on the real manufacturers. Red Bull answered with youthful bravado. A young team boss, Christian Horner, who just turned 31, a reputation for edgy marketing, and an attitude that F1 should be fun. Early on, results were modest, but the vibe was different. They threw parties in the paddock and even fielded livery with a giant bull splashed across the car. The establishment smirked, but just until Red Bull started winning. In 2009, Sebastian Vettel scored his maiden win, and by 2013, the once rookie team turned into an F1 juggernaut with 4 straight championships. Not bad for a team born out of an old green Jaguar that Ford gave up on. That's the proof that with enough wings, you can actually fly in F1.
I want a one-word answer, very quickly. The Constructors' World Champion, Jonathan.
I've gone for McLaren.
Ferrari.
McLaren.
Red Bull.
Didn't we know that was going to happen? Didn't we know that was going to happen?
What the hell's that? I don't laugh when you give your answer.
No team's birth is more intertwined with F1's history than Ferrari. Scuderia Ferrari was actually founded way back in 1929 by Enzo Ferrari as a racing team for Alfa Romeo, meaning Ferrari was racing before Formula One even existed. When the F1 World Championship began in 1950, Ferrari was there at the start and has never left. The only team to compete in every season since. Ferrari famously only built road cars to fund his racing habit, and his team quickly became Italy's pride. Ferrari's first F1 victory came in 1951, and by 1953, they had their first titles with Alberto Ascari. The prancing horse has since galloped to record championship numbers, but its early days set the tone. Yes, they've had ups and downs and plenty of internal drama, but unlike many teams that change names or owners, Ferrari's identity never needed a rebrand. They've always been Ferrari, always red, and almost a religion in Italy. The modern Mercedes team has an origin story that reads like a phoenix rising, or rather, a Brawn rising. Mercedes had been out of the team ownership game since the 1950s, after their abrupt withdrawal from motorsport following the tragic 1955 Le Mans disaster. Over 180 people were injured and many more hospitalized during the Le Mans race that year, and Mercedes announced a full withdrawal from all motorsport activities, preferring to supply engines. But time went by, and their stance changed after the 2009 season. The 2009 Ross Brawn's Miracle Brawn GP team won the championship in its only season, and then promptly sold to Mercedes. An obvious move, Brawn GP was formed only by necessity. Honda had abruptly pulled out of F1 in late 2008, leaving its team stranded. Team principal Ross Brawn led a management buyout to save the jobs and the car they'd been developing. They renamed it Brawn GP after Ross and showed up just in time for the 2009 season with a blank white car and a hope to simply survive. But the car was insanely fast. Brawn had discovered a loophole in the diffuser regulations, and Jenson Button proceeded to win 6 of the first 7 races in the season. They dominated absolutely everyone and clinched both championships. It was the first and only time a team won the Constructors' Championship in its debut season. By season's end, Brawn GP became the foundation of the modern Mercedes team. Mercedes were back in a big way. They even enticed Michael Schumacher out of retirement to lend some star power in the early years. The start was humble by Mercedes standards, a few wins here and there, but the team's true rebirth payoff came with the 2014 rule changes and the hybrid era, which Mercedes utterly dominated. They proceeded to rack up an unprecedented streak of titles, thanks to Lewis Hamilton, who took a chance on the young team back in 2012. That switch from McLaren paid off big time.
Jenson Button's a winner again. Brawn GP are winners on their first race appearance, and not only that, it's a 1-2 finish. Button from Barrichello, what a result!
McLaren's birth is the story of a young New Zealander who refused to follow anyone's script. Bruce McLaren was just 26 when he founded Bruce McLaren Motor Racing in 1963. A talented driver himself, Bruce set up shop in a small shed with the dream of building his own cars. McLaren's first Grand Prix win came in 1968 in Belgium with Bruce at the wheel. Yes, he was the team owner and the driver. Tragically, Bruce McLaren never saw his team succeed. He died testing a car in 1970. Under new management, Teddy Mayer, and later Ron Dennis from 1981, McLaren grew into an F1 powerhouse, winning championships with Emerson Fittipaldi, James Hunt, and then dominating in the Senna Prost era of the 1980s. Following the highs of Lewis Hamilton's 2008 championship, the team slipped into a prolonged decline. The breakdown of their relationship with Mercedes and the disastrous reunion with Honda from 2015 left them struggling at the back of the grid. Despite having drivers like Fernando Alonso, the cars were uncompetitive and unreliable, leading to frustration and ridicule. Change began when Zak Brown took over as CEO and spearheaded a quiet revolution within the team. Young talent like Lando Norris brought both speed and consistency, while Carlos Sainz helped stabilize the team during a critical period of transition. The breakthrough came in 2021 when Daniel Ricciardo secured McLaren's first win in nearly a decade at Monza, with Norris right behind in second. By mid-2023, McLaren surprised many with a series of technical upgrades that vaulted them into podium contention, and this season, they are absolutely killing it. Yes, let me be a Lando fangirl for a moment. It's pretty cool for a team that literally started as one man's dream in the shed.
Hi everyone, it's Lando Norris here. This is also my first time doing ASMR, and I'm here with my lovely backpack.
Aston Martin's origin is a story of many births and identities. Probably too many. The squad based at Silverstone first entered Formula 1 in 1959 with the DBR4 car. The entry was not very successful, the car was outdated even when it debuted, being based on earlier sports car designs. After 2 difficult seasons, Aston Martin withdrew from F1 to focus on their road cars and sports car racing programs. The Aston you see on the grid today is a totally different thing. The team began life as Jordan Grand Prix when Eddie Jordan founded it in 1991. He injected a burst of colorful personality into F1, which was a breath of fresh air. First of all, Jordan arrived with a bright green car, 7-Up sponsorship and all that. Secondly, in his debut season, Jordan achieved the unthinkable. They gave a rookie named Michael Schumacher his first F1 drive at Spa in 1991, and he qualified an astonishing 7th. That car was still garbage though, so Schumacher was immediately poached by Benetton after that one race. The team's early years were full of financial close calls, and yet by 1998, Eddie Jordan's gang pulled off something spectacular. At the chaotic Belgian GP, Jordan cars finished first and second for the team's maiden win. Jordan even contended for the championship in 1999, finishing third overall. But by the mid-2000s, the money ran really thin. Eddie sold the team in 2005 to Midland, ending Jordan's 15-season run. There would be many name changes over the next couple of years. Racing Point, Force India, Spiker. Midland investors and sponsors were coming and going, and nobody could really commit to the team. However, fast forward to 2018, the team was known as Force India at that time and found itself in financial trouble once again. A consortium led by Canadian billionaire Lawrence Stroll saved it mid-season. By 2021, Stroll had a new plan. He happened to own a chunk of Aston Martin Lagonda, the legendary sports car brand, and decided to slap that iconic name on his F1 team. Thus, Aston Martin returned to the F1 grid in 2021 under Stroll's leadership. One thing's consistent though, that Silverstone-based team is still in the midfield all these years later, not being able to live up to Jordan's 1998 season. Will the sale to the Saudis change that? Only time will tell.
Oh, yeah. Get back. Get in there. Anyone yet? You can drive F1, I guess you can.
I save all my energy for the car.
Alpine F1 team's origin is a story of a team with an identity crisis, finally finding national pride. Alpine is essentially today's name for the Renault Works team, but its roots go way back to an English private team called Toleman in 1981. Toleman gave young Ayrton Senna his debut in 1984, and Senna nearly won Monaco right away. Toleman was then bought by the flamboyant Benetton family in 1986 and renamed Benetton Formula, ushering in an era of bright colors and big success. Michael Schumacher took Benetton to championships in 94 and 95. In 2000, Renault purchased the Benetton team, and by 2002, it was the Renault F1 team, bringing French flair back. Renault won titles in 2005 and 2006 with Fernando Alonso, and all was going great. However, then came a weird twist. Renault sold the team to Genie Capital, and the team was rebranded Lotus F1 from 2012. That plan was actually really bad from the beginning and probably deserves an entire video, but by 2016, the French manufacturer decided to reacquire the team and return it to full works status. With the buyout of Genie Capital completed, the team officially raced once again under the Renault name, proudly restoring its historic identity and reaffirming its commitment to F1 as a constructor, not just an engine supplier. But Renault's ambitions didn't stop at just a return. By 2021, they took another bold step. They decided to promote Alpine, their niche but iconic sporty sub-brand known for sleek performance cars like the Alpine A110. Through all those changes, the UK base squad remained the same underneath, even though it's racing under a French flag.
You have moved up above Alpine and more points scored today than the rest of the season combined. This is a huge moment for McLaren.
Yes, it's a very, very happy moment, you know.
Visa Cash App RB is indeed a corporate fever dream. The team was once known as Toro Rosso because in 2006, Red Bull decided one F1 team wasn't enough and they wanted a junior team to develop young talent. So, Red Bull bought the Minardi team. By the way, Minardi is one of the few teams born purely from passion. Minardi joined F1 in 1985, founded by Giancarlo Minardi, a charismatic Italian who had run smaller racing teams on even smaller budgets. Their debut was tough, no points in the first season, and truth be told, points of any kind were a rarity in Minardi's two-decade run. Notable victories include a 5th place finish at the 1991 San Marino GP, and that famous day in 2002 when Aussie Mark Webber took 5th at Melbourne. Sadly, by 2005, rising costs forced Giancarlo Minardi to sell, so Red Bull saw the opportunity, bought it, and rebranded it as Scuderia Toro Rosso. That's Red Bull in Italian. Toro Rosso was literally as Red Bull's little sibling. They even ran a detuned Red Bull car. Unexpectedly, Toro Rosso made history when Sebastian Vettel won the 2008 Italian GP in a Ferrari-powered Toro Rosso. That was a shock win, as their big brother Red Bull was yet to win a race. That's right, Toro Rosso won in Formula 1 before Red Bull. Imagine the garage that day. The team later rebranded to AlphaTauri, named after Red Bull's fashion brand. Suddenly, the F1 team was a runway for trendy streetwear, for whatever reason. But by 2024, marketing took another turn. Major sponsors Visa and Cash App came on board, and the team was awkwardly renamed Visa Cash App RB. Underneath the branding, this is still the little Faenza Italy-based squad that regularly grooms future superstars. But Visa Cash App RB, that's a name only a corporate lawyer could love. Stake F1 team Keck Sauber is another mouthful, and the 2024 branding of the good old Sauber team. Peter Sauber, founded the team and entered F1 in 1993, bringing a no-nonsense, engineering-first approach, a classic Swiss trait. Sauber gave debut drives to big names like Raikkonen and Massa, and even had a partnership with Red Bull as a sponsor in the 90s. Fast forward to 2010s, and Sauber struck a deal to be branded as Alfa Romeo from 2019 to 2023. Alfa were so lazy, they even let Sauber boys still run the team, just slapped the logo on the car. And when that deal ended, the team wanted its name back, but in the interim, their title sponsors Stake and Kick took center stage. Essentially, Sauber is squeezed in there like a middle name. It's a temporary identity as the team gears up to become Audi's works team in 2026. So the team born as Sauber 3 decades ago is currently in a weird teenage phase of naming rights. Williams Racing was born in 1977 in a humble carpet warehouse outside Oxford, when Frank Williams and engineer Patrick Head decided to have another go at F1. Frank Williams had actually run a team before, with little success and a lot of scraping by. But still, with Williams Grand Prix engineering, Frank finally found the right formula. They debuted in '77, and by 1979, Clay Regazzoni took Williams' first win at the British GP at Silverstone. That victory, a British driver winning the British GP for a British team, announced Williams as a coming force. In 1980, Williams won their first championship, and over the next 2 decades, they became an absolute powerhouse. 9 constructors' titles and 7 drivers' titles in total, absolutely dominating. However, it all went down from there, and I've made a video covering the fall of Williams under the rule of Sir William's daughter Claire. You should check it out. And of course, if you like the video so far, don't forget to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 20,000 subscribers by the F1 summer break. Subscribe! Williams never rebranded or relocated. They remained proudly Williams through boom and bust. Even though the team was sold because it was going bankrupt faster than sponsors and pay drivers could throw money at it, under new ownership, it kept the Williams name. From that rented workshop in '77 to becoming one of F1's most successful teams, Williams' origin embodies the spirit of independent British racing grit. And I do hope we see it at the top of the ranks once again.
Front wing, rear wing, engine, gearbox, an enhanced energy recovery system, and much more.
America's lone and modern F1 team, Haas, was born in 2016, determined to break the drought of US teams in F1. Founder Gene Haas is a NASCAR team co-owner and machine tool billionaire, so he took a calculated approach. He partnered with Ferrari for technical support and took advantage of new rules allowing teams to buy more off-the-shelf parts. Haas F1 team hit the ground running in 2016. Their first race was the Australian GP. Haas shocked absolutely everyone when Romain Grosjean drove to 6th place, scoring points on debut. They were the first brand new team to score on a debut since 2002. It felt like an American spirit was about to take over Formula One. Of course, reality kicked in, and the team had its share of struggles, but Haas's birth was impressively smooth by F1 standards. However, they always managed to get in trouble with scam sponsors, Russian money, paid drivers with no talent, and many more. Moreover, their team principal, Günther Steiner, seemed to always be in chaos. Even though I like the guy, he's absolutely the opposite of team principal material.
They look like rock stars, huh? And now we are a fucking bunch of wankers. Yeah, bunch of fucking clowns here.
Haas has since become a midfield mainstay. For a team that didn't exist prior to 2016, Haas has quickly made an impact, true to its roots as the brainchild of a can-do American entrepreneur who wasn't afraid to take on the snobbish European sport. However, not all the entries in F1 were this successful. Yes, I'm calling Haas successful here, as they are a small team and are still racing. At one point, the world's largest car manufacturer decided to go F1 racing and failed miserably. Toyota announced their F1 project in '99 and spent a fortune building a state-of-the-art team from scratch in Cologne, Germany. Unlike most new teams, Toyota didn't buy an existing entrant. They went the hard way, hiring an army of staff, constructing their own chassis and engine in-house, even sitting out the entire 2001 season, just testing a prototype to prepare. Their official debut came in 2002, and they scored points in their very first race. It was an impressive start, but that was about it. Toyota, despite their enormous budget and preparation, never got that much better relative to the competition. they never won a Grand Prix while having one of the sport's biggest budgets, an estimated $2 billion plus over 8 seasons, and not one victory to show for it. They achieved several second-place finishes, and 2005 was promising. By 2009, the team actually had a car capable of winning on occasion. They locked out the front row in Bahrain 2009, for example. But strategic errors and other misfortunes meant Toyota still didn't clinch a win. The global financial crisis hit in 2008, and auto companies were running away from Formula One. After the 2009 season, Toyota made the shock decision to withdraw immediately from F1 as well. And you might think, well, Toyota just needed better management, like some kind of past F1 racer to understand the spirit of F1. Prost Grand Prix was exactly that, and it didn't really work out. Prost, freshly retired in 1993, eventually fulfilled a dream by buying the Ligier team in early 1997. Ligier was basically Team France, held up by support from the French government and automaker Matra's backers. The blue cars of Ligier became a force in the late 70s, with Lafitte even challenging for the championship in 1979. By the early 90s, however, Ligier was clearly in decline. At the end of 1996, Prost purchased Ligier and rebranded it Prost GP for 97 season. At first, things looked promising. With Olivier Panis driving, Prost GP scored a podium in its debut year, and Panis was running second in Canada before a crash broke his legs, a turning point that sent the team into a spiral of bad luck. Despite some bright spots like truly nearly winning a rain-soaked 99 European GP before finishing second, the team constantly struggled financially and performance-wise. Prost's transition from driver to team owner was rough. He found that even his fame and expertise couldn't magically secure the sponsorship and results needed. After a dismal 2000 season and losing the factory Peugeot engines, Prost GP was on the ropes. The nail in the coffin came in 2001, when results and money dried up completely. In early 2002, Prost Grand Prix went into liquidation under a mountain of debt. With all of this fails, the question is, can you actually make an F1 team today? And how much would it cost? Well, buying an existing team is the more traditional and realistic route. Once bought, you can rename the team pending FIA approval, restructure management, and inject new funding. This has been the method for most of the F1 teams on the grid, because this way, you're more likely to succeed. You inherit existing infrastructure, like Mercedes got all the cool stuff from Brawn. You have immediate entry into the F1 Championship without needing FIA acceptance for a new team. Some points, prize money entitlements, and contracts might carry over as well. Starting a brand new team is harder, rarer, but still technically possible. When F1 opens up the grid to new teams, which it does very rarely, interested parties must submit extensive proposals to the FIA. Alongside the application, you must pay a massive anti-dilution fee, currently around $200 million, meant to compensate existing teams for diluting prize money shares. You must also demonstrate you have the funding, facilities, technical expertise, and a realistic competitive plan. Beyond FIA approval, you also need the green light from Liberty Media, the commercial rights holder, who need to be satisfied that your team adds value to the show. This path requires massive funding, often $500 million or more over several years. You must build or lease a modern factory, secure wind tunnel access, and set up testing facilities which cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And even if you manage to enter, staying competitive is a whole other battle. New teams risk spending billions to be several seconds off the pace, which can doom them in both sporting and commercial terms. Like Virgin Racing, aka Marussia, aka Manor Racing, who came in 2010s just to be 10 seconds off pace. Formula One is an established sport, and the stories of humble beginnings are almost impossible at this point. So I would suggest rooting for Haas, as we might not see a new original team on the grid in a while. Or do you think they will sell out to a big manufacturer at some point as well? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.